Alaska is God's country.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful place, and I'm very thankful for the work he was able to do, and I'm very thankful that our church helped support him doing that. So let's go to the Lord in prayer, and then let Sid have the stage here. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this day, and Lord, thank you for the work that you provided for Sid to do. Thank you, Lord, for providing for this church so that we could help him out in that. And Lord, thank you that he's willing to share his experiences with us, that we might all be encouraged and learn and grow and be motivated to go out and do the work as well. I ask this in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen.
Can you guys hear this? Is it on? Okay. I'll figure out how this thing works here. Left side. Nope. See if we can get this thing going. All right. Gotta love technology. Well, anyway, while we're getting this thing set up, if you guys remember, I don't know if everybody was here, back in November, a guy named Claire Longevin came and gave a talk about things they were doing. He works with a company or an entity called Avant Ministries out of Kansas City. They had an opportunity to go to Alaska, and my ears perked up, and I'm like, well, yeah, I'd be interested in trying to do something like that. So the Lord worked it out between everything going on, and I was able to get to go to Alaska. I don't know if you've never been there, you got to go. And this is apparently what God's telling you. If you can't see it, you got to go see it for yourself. So, okay, here we go. All right. So I was able to, basically they wanted a 10-man group, basic construction background, and you don't have to be construction background, but we were supposed to be going up there to build a house, staff facilities, staff lodging. And the way God works, as the time progressed, I found out that they didn't get the building permit, okay? So things were going to kind of change. We're going to have to do something different. So we ended up having to remodel another house is what we were doing, a house that was already there. Basically, the crew in front of us they got the foundation and stuff poured in the ground, but we weren't going to have enough time to get the whole house built and dried in before bad weather hit for wintertime coming. So anyway, they had us go ahead and remodel the exterior of another house. So how many understand that when things change in our lives, God's always ahead of us, okay? What was amazing was through this time, because it was almost a year, it was 10 months from the time that I heard about it till the time I actually left in August. Kept hearing we're not getting enough guys. We're not getting enough people. We have 7, 8. We need 10. Well, how many understand that when the time's right, God puts people where they need to be? Long story short, we had 13 guys showed up on the trip, okay? And he had to actually turn people away. How many also understand that God puts the people there that need to be there? Originally, we were supposed to build a house, so guys with that skill set needed to be there. We ended up remodeling a house and doing exterior work. Guys had to run bucket trucks, equipment, stuff like that. Those people showed up. God had them put in place. The skill sets were there, and that's part of the thing. What we did the first day, when we got there, we'd get up at 7:30 in the morning, we'd have a meeting in a yurt, which I'll show you some pictures of it. Never saw a yurt other than pictures, but we got to spend time in one every morning. We'd go in, we'd have a devotional. Daniel Schoenthaler, which I forgot my pictures. I have a prayer card for him. They're out in the truck. Daniel Schoenthaler was the guy that was in charge of the construction going on in the encampment. And he would show up in the morning, we'd have our devotional, and then he would kind of put the work crews together about who needed to go where and do what. So I'm going to go through this real quick. Some of this I'm going to kind of just run through. It's just going to be pictures of the trip. This is the plane out the window. I actually had a window seat right by the wing. And just real quick, this one here I took. If you can kind of see how that wing's bowing, okay, well, we were flying at 30,000 feet. Actually, we kept hitting some turbulence, especially when we came into Seattle. And I actually looked out the window, and that wing was actually moving like 3 to 4 feet. The end of the whole wing was up and down. That's why, if you can see that, and I'm looking at that window going, wait a second, I thought these things just flew. I didn't realize they had to flap all the way to Seattle. I'm like, yeah, so anyway, that's why I took that picture real quick. But, and these are a couple pictures of the Rockies coming over at 30,000 feet, which I thought were kind of neat. Some of them you can actually see the snow still on the tops of them. And these, I asked some of the guys, these are actually, when we come across the Rockies, those round circles, they told me those are aspens. They grow in circles like that. And you'll see some of them, I think they're kind of tan. They said those, they've got some kind of blight going on, that some of them, it's killing like groups of them. So I from 30,000 feet, it just, to me, looks like circles on the ground. But I did not realize that's what those are supposed to be, is aspen groves that grow, and they start with a central tree and they grow out all different directions. So I thought that was kind of neat. This is coming into Juneau. This is the bay as we're coming in. This is the camp we're at. It's called Echo Camp. Now this is actually where they have a dormitory right there when you're in Juneau. They came and picked us up. The building in the background is the actual church where we attended services that Sunday morning. The stairway there, that's a dormitory there, and then another dormitory off to the side. Here are just some quick pictures when we got there. This is the bay across from the dorm, okay? It's hard to see, but that big boat right there in the middle, that thing has a helicopter on the back of the boat. Okay, this thing is huge. This is a lot of ocean traffic comes in and out of there. You drive about 30 miles north of Juneau, and this is actually what they call end of the road. That's the name of it, end of the road. It literally ends into the ocean, or it's actually a canal there, and that's part of the ocean. And that's where we met the ferry that picked us up to take us over to Echo Camp. And that's where one of these shells, I was actually walking around there while we were waiting, and I found one of these crab shells. These are Dungeness crabs. The one that's red, it had been cooked. So I found that laying there, so I grabbed it and stuffed a newspaper in it and brought it home. This is a ferry that we rode coming in. They told, while we're there, they said there's 2 Bibles, God's Bible and the Tide Book, because they have to travel by the Tide Book. Comes in and out 4 times a day, about every 6.5 hours. So they have to plan all their activities around the Tide Book. Now, in case of an emergency, they do have a 4-wheel drive that will, if they have to, they can literally drive the shore to try to get into town for an emergency situation. And funny thing is, while we were there, they had to make a trip into town, not for an emergency, but they had to get into town, and they actually broke the frame of one of their trucks getting into town. It's that rough. But if you'll notice in the background, this is the scenery. See that big mountain back there behind him? That one's actually Lion's Head. These are some of the guys, the people that were on the boat coming out with us. These were different people that were coming to work at the camp and to be at the camp. Some of their families that had been in town, and they were actually coming out with us that day. This is a place called Angel's Peak. There's 3 big mountains right there in front of them. Angel's Peak, Lion's Head straight in front of you. Angel's Peak's off to the right a little bit, and then there's another one, I don't remember, started with an M, off to the right. If you look at this scenery, we think what heaven's going to look like. Guys, this country is amazing. And I'll show you, you'll see some more pictures as we're going. This was the local store. They would open it. They opened it up a couple of times while we were there. You could go in and buy some souvenirs, drinks, candy bars, snacks, and stuff like that. That's actually on the camp. All the wood in these buildings, they have a sawmill there on site. They cut all the wood for all these buildings. So everything you see in this whole thing is going to be all cut on site. They cut the timber and they build everything right there on the site. This one here is called the purpling chair. This chair stands 6 foot tall at the back, and it's about 4 foot wide. The reason they have this camp has youth that come through the spring and summer. They had over 800 youth there this last year. They had them as far away as 250 miles coming to this camp. They offer horseback riding, they do zip lining, they have a bunch of activities, kayaking, all the different activities. But, of course, the boys are blue, girls are red or pink. Well, what happens when you mix red and blue? You get purple. So anytime anyone is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, they make them sit in this chair in front of everyone that happens to come down the trail to remind them that they're supposed to do what they're supposed to do. Okay? You get the picture. This is the yurt that we met in every day. We would come in at 7:30, meet. We'd be there for about 30 minutes, and about 10 till 8, they would ring a horn to let us know breakfast was getting ready or lunch was getting ready about 10 minutes prior to lunch or breakfast, to the meals. And these are some of the guys that we met while we were up there. Like I said, there was 13 of us come up there. And like I said, now this was brought in, sorry. This was brought in, they bought this as a kit. And another group, they've had that up about a year, they said, was actually put this up. So I'm sorry. So this was brought in. And I've never been in one. It's amazing. It was probably 40 foot across, circular. So, and like I said, so these are some of the guys that was with the group. We had guys, who wants to take a guess who the youngest guy on the group was? Take a guess. How young, I'm going to give you young to old. How young do you think the youngest guy in our group was? We had 13 people showed up from all over the country. Take a quick guess. Give me an age, range.
4.
No, how old? Who said 4? Not quite that young. He had to be able to swing a hammer. This kid was 15 years old, okay? He came with his grandfather on this trip. How old do you think the oldest one was? Now, you remember Claire. Claire was 80, I think he's 80 or 82. 84 years old. The gentleman on the left there, if you can see him with the gray hair, man's a retired pilot from Arkansas. He actually called me because he thought we were going to be coming out of the same airport and we were going to hook up, but he come out of Springfield and I came out of Kansas City. They flew me out of Kansas City, which you heard that story. Anyway, 84 years old. And tell you a quick story about him. They were working Thursday evening, and they got a little tractor that they use back and forth to haul equipment and stuff, and ran out of fuel. This is how God protects you. They were working on it, and Don was helping the guy that was running the tractor, and they were trying to prime it and get it going because it ran out of fuel. And he was actually holding the brake with his hand, or the clutch, I'm sorry, with his hand to trying to let it crank over to pump the fuel up to get it going. And once it fired up and got to running, it's not a big tractor, it's a smaller tractor. Once he fired up to get it running, he let go of the clutch. It was in gear, and he didn't know it. He's standing literally beside the wheel when he let go of the clutch, and it hit him, and it spun him. It could have just literally just run right up over top of him. Now, this man's 84 years old, and don't get me wrong, the man's in good shape and he can work. He's a good worker. But it literally hit him in his hip, spun him around, and went by him, and the wagon that was behind it literally just grazed him as it went by. He was beat up a little bit and a little shook up, but God was there, had his hand on him, didn't let anything happen to him. So when we made this trip, we go thinking we're going to be working, but who understands? What's the Bible say? When 2 or 3 are gathered. It don't say you're here in the church service all the time. You can be gathered doing the job like this. He's there among you, and he takes care of us. And he did. I'm going to have to go through these a little quicker because we got a lot of pictures. But I'm just thinking, when we were there, God was everywhere. I mean, you've seen it all over in the scenery. I'd get up every morning, go down to the beach, and take pictures of the tides. The tides literally come in 22 feet. They'll move 22 feet in and out, depth. Okay, you'll come in the morning. There'll be 1,000 foot of beach. You come back at lunch, and the water's up to, it's come in 1,000 feet. So it's amazing. They can park their boats and have to row out to them when the tide's up 150 feet, or 150 yards rather, and when the tide's down, they're sitting on dry land. So it's amazing how the tides work. I'd never seen that. We're actually on a place called the Lynn Canal. This is the river right behind the camp where we actually got to do some fishing. There's a trolley that actually comes across the river there. If you can see that to the left, you actually have to hand pull yourself across that trolley, and there's a place that's They call it a wilderness camp on the end of the property. They've got 350 acres there. Excuse me, and that tree, the gentleman looking at that tree, his name's Ron. He's from Minnesota. He was a logger, as you can tell. You see what he's looking at? He's looking at that tree. He saw there's trees up there, huge. These are huge ponderosa pines, I guess what they are. He was looking at that tree, because that tree would probably take 4 of you to put your arms around it. And he was admiring that tree. So I've cut some big trees in my day, but he said, I've never cut any of some of these as big as some of these are. But they had that arm there that was hooked up with a big old pulley on the end of it, and that was part of what you used to pull yourself across the river. And there's Claire and some of the other guys that are watching another group, because you can only come across 4 at a time. And we had 14 of us that day, I think, that were coming across to go look at the encampment. And the reason I'm showing you these, our men's group, guys, this would be a great place to take a trip. You can go out here, spend 3 days, a weekend, or a week out there in that camp. It's all back in the wilderness. Of course, there's no utilities or anything. The building on the right would be your meeting hall. The other 2 are your sleeping quarters. And there's actually another building to the left here that is I think that's the kitchen and stuff, because they had a dinner bell on the end of the porch. I didn't look into the buildings. They had them locked up. But that was some of the berries. This is the view on the left. That's the view right out where those 2 houses were. If you walk right up to the edge of the river, that's the view right at the river, looking up at the mountain back behind you. The view on the right, that's actually the foundation of the building we were supposed to build on. Okay, you see what it was. It's a hole in the ground with concrete on it. That's where we were supposed to build. That wasn't what God had planned for us. Okay, this is the scenery in the morning, in the first evening I was there. Those horses, they actually have a group of, I think it's 28 horses that are free range. They just let them run the island. Now they ride them, they break them. They have a wrangler that comes in when it's time to break them or time to use them. The wrangler comes in, rounds them up, kind of re-tames them down, gets them used to being handled, and then they have the kids that come out there. But other than that, they just roam wherever they want to roam, all over. Now, look at that view. Guys, this country up there is amazing. I've been several places in the world, but that country is untouched, a lot of it. People haven't even been on parts of it. And it's just beautiful. And we were talking about it, thinking, what's heaven going to be like? If this is what God has for us here, the Bible says the mind can't even conceive what heaven's going to be like. But there's another kind of a close-up of it. You see that big peninsula out there, that big point off to the left? There's a big peninsula runs out. You can just barely see the top of the rocks and stuff there. Well, when we're standing there, I'm going to show you a couple other pictures. You'll see the water, the tides go down far enough that peninsula, that point, is about 800 yards long, and it's about 10 foot out of the water. That's how much that tide comes up and down. That background, because we were tell us we could take a kayak if we wanted to and kayak around out there, or canoe, because they talked about running over there to that other point, and it doesn't look that far away. It's 11 miles across to that point. Now, not the point in the middle, the other beach on the other side. They said it's 11 miles across there. So if you think you're going to just paddle over there a little bit, you better think again. That's called the Lynn Canal, which actually whales. One of the guys actually got to see a whale there. This is the church that they built. Okay, I didn't have a picture. Well, I do have a picture of the outside, but I didn't put it on here. All that lumber inside that church, they cut and hand worked right there on the property and built this church. This thing is beautiful, guys. All raw wood. It's beautiful. And look at the carpentry that went into this. Them are plank boards, tongue and groove, that they just stacked right up the ceiling. They lined the whole interior of that building with wood. They call this a hairy tree. This is one of the trees outside the camp there. It's right at the junction that goes past that store. It looked like, we thought it was Spanish moss, but they said it's not Spanish moss. It's some kind of fungus that they said grows on the trees, but it looks like Spanish moss from where I'm from. But anyway, they said they call that the hairy tree. The house on the left, that's the actual house that we got to work on. They pulled the porch off of it, and if you'll look at the white around the bottom of the house, we actually pulled all the plywood around the bottom of the house first day, pulled all the plywood off because it had rotted, and the sea air, the salt air deteriorates the wood pretty quickly. And there's also facade columns on the front. It looks like an old Southern style Victorian mansion is what it looks like. And what it is, the center of the building is an actual family that lives there all the time. The Schoenthalers, actually, that work there, Daniel, him and his family live there. Him and his wife and 5 kids live in that center house. And then the 2 are for people that come in throughout the summer and help out. And they're kind of like apartments. They're for usually single people or a couple. And those are the 2 on the exterior. So the right, that's some of the lumber. They had literally just cut that lumber that morning at the sawmill, brought it to us. Now, it was seasoned. It lays there and dries for a period of time. They have just the logs drying. They cut it, brought it to us. We primed it with kills, and then painted it a tan to go over up the walls. This is a view, the left picture is a view out the back door. They see that view every day. Can you imagine? Looking at that big mountain right in the middle, that's Lion's Head. The one just to the right, you can just start to see the edge of, that's Angel's Point. The little thing in the middle there, that's actually the end of the zip line. That's the stage or the bottom platform of the zip line. The rest of it's up to the right. The right, you see, we pulled all the joints of the boards. We had to caulk all the butt joints of the boards where they met up the whole house. Now, you see what the exterior of the house looked like when we got started? See how the salt fades the paint and deteriorates the outside of the house? That's what it started. That's what it looked like. So we went around it. They caulked all the windows, the doors, all the butt joints of the boards. These are the guys that are working on building the porch. There's a porch. They built that porch. Those are 4x8s that they're building that porch out of. Okay, that tractor couldn't have pulled that porch apart once they got it built. These guys were carpenters, and they built a porch that wouldn't come down, believe me. This is how the camp's actually laid out. I took a picture. They had that in the mess hall there where you ate. They had the picture of the camp that showed all the different things that they have going on. If you get a chance, look them up. They're an awesome group. They've been there since the 50s. Okay, it was when they started back in the 50s. That's actually a picture of the house from a distance on the left. That's the tractor that I ran. I ran the equipment while I was there. There's a platform, a box on the front of it, if you can see it. We actually would take the guys up and work on the fascia and the soffit area, caulking it and painting it. And then you can see the 2 columns in the front and then the corner beads on the side of the house there. Those were all wood. We painted and restripped all those and painted them and put them back on. This is a stump right outside of one of the camp houses where we stayed. There was 3 bunkhouses that we used, and that's actually cut into a stump outside one of the houses there, which I thought was kind of cool. Got the cross cut in it. That's me on the left. We actually got to fish in the evening. I bought a 3-day license while we were there. I got to fish in the evening. We would get up at, like I said, 7:30. We'd have our devotional. We'd eat breakfast at 8, go to work, and then we'd eat lunch about noon. We'd go back to work till about 5:30. We'd come back, eat supper. And between 6 and after that, about 6:30, you was on your own. You could do whatever you want, go wherever you want, as long, didn't get yourself in trouble. Because there are bears. We did see bears, wolves. And I'll show you some pictures of some here in a little bit. But we got 3 or 4 of us got the chance to go down to the river and go fishing. I'd never been salmon fishing in my life. That's a pink salmon. First one I ever caught in my life. That's the first one. Your limit's 6 a day. I caught 3 first day, 3 second day, and 6. I finally caught my limit the last day. So brought 20 to 25 pounds of salmon home. And I think we priced it while we were there that day. It was $13.99 a pound. So it was a pretty nice little, benefit of being there. And that's one of the things we were talking about while we're there. People in the world don't understand that they think God's standing above them, waiting to put their thumb on top of them and oppress them down. And that's not what God's about. God's about taking you to places you wouldn't even dream of going. Putting you in a situation that, in my mind, I would have never, ever thought about ever being in Alaska. Ever. I thought, I can't say that. I never would have seen myself there. I thought about going, but God provided the way. And that's what we were talking about is He wants to give you opportunities to see His handiwork here. But you got to be willing to take it. You got to be willing to step through that door and go to the places that He wants you to go. So, again, we're blessed. We were blessed to enjoy the fruits of what He has for us. The guys on the right, these 2 guys are both from the Netherlands. They're 17 years old. David's on the left. Reuben's on the right. we were coming back from the river the first day, and we're coming around the corner, and we saw something running down the road. How long we got? Well, how long? I forget how long we got. Till what time? 9:30? 9:30? Whoo, I got to hustle. Okay, real quick then. These guys, we saw a porcupine running down the road, and they run up there real quick with the truck, and there were 3 of us standing in the back that was from the group, and they jumped out of the truck and they started chasing this porcupine and they're running in grass that's waist tall. And so they're looking for it, and I could see it standing in the truck. And so I was directing them, go right, go right. Well, they run over there and they start smacking that thing with their hats. We're trying to figure out what they're doing. The guy on my left from Colorado, he goes, what are they trying to do, kill that thing with their hats? And I'm like, no, I don't know what they're doing. I said, if it's like a possum, I was thinking like a possum, maybe they're trying to get it to soul, Possum, if you spook it, it'll soul and act like it's dead. Well, what they do, one of their things up there in Alaska is, see their hats full of them quills, which I've got some up here. They actually hit them with their hats, and they stick them quills into their hats. That's the second one they'd found all spring. So that's one of their things in Alaska when you're a young guy, is chase down the porcupines and get quills in your hat. That's like your badge of honor, okay? That's the group of fish we had the first day. I'm going to kind of run through these. This is Alaskan humor, I call it. This was in the outhouse that you have between the shops, okay? So I call that Alaskan humor. There's some of the guys that's working on the house. Like we had guys from all over the country. We had guys from Arkansas, Minnesota, Colorado, Missouri. What was the other? There was another one. Virginia. A lot of guys from Virginia. There's 4 guys from Virginia. So that's working on the house. The place to the right there, that's a containment tank that they had to build for their fuel tank. They had to build a containment area for their fuel tank. This is some of the history of the camp that they had on the wall. Talked about the people that set it up. And there's no way I'm going to get through all this, I can already tell you. Not by the time we got to get out of here. So this is a family that's in the center there. That's a containment tank to the right. These are the crabs that we caught. They took us out crabbing on Thursday during about lunchtime. After lunch, we was working, and they come on and said, come on, everybody come on. We're like, where are we going? They said, we're going to go out and check crab pots. So we went out, and what they do, when you catch your fish, you fillet your fish, and you throw all your bones and everything in a bag. Then they take all those bones, and they throw them in the freezer, and then they break them apart and throw them in them crab traps, and them crabs come in there. That's how they catch your crab. So you use everything that they have. All their natural things they have, they use everything. They don't throw nothing away. They don't waste anything. So that's some of the crab. And we caught 10 crabs that were legal. They have a gauge. You have to measure them. They have to be a certain width and not count the horns. You'll see there's little horns on the side. Be careful. They are sharp. We caught 10. And you realize those 10 crabs, and they had 2 king crabs, which is that one big piece there. They had 2 king crabs they had caught the day before. Fed over 40 people, which amazed me. So when we were looking at them, I'm thinking, there's no way them 10, I think I could eat 2 of those myself, but come to find out you can't. There's a lot more meat on them than you would believe there are. But this is just some of the scenery, guys. There's eagles. Saw eagles every day. I'm going to try to run through. That's the last day's catch. The moon up there, and after we wouldn't done fishing till 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. And by the time we got them cleaned and everything, a lot of times I wouldn't go back to the cabin till midnight. Everybody else was already in bed. I would come walking through at midnight. And you're up there, when it's dark, it's dark. Okay, you could walk down the road, there's no lights, and you could literally wipe your hand in front of your face and you couldn't even see it sometimes when you hit the dark spots. It's that dark. But there's one little light down at the bottom of the hill. They had a shed where they used some of their equipment. And you could kind of guide yourself along the road, because there's some places you couldn't see it. You couldn't tell where you were walking, if you was in the woods or if you was in the road. So that's the beach. I'd stand out every morning. Now, if you can see that point way off to your left there, see how it's completely out of the water? That's what in that picture before was up underneath all that water. That's how far that tide comes in and out. It's amazing. That little area right in front of you, they play a game where it's kind of like kick dodgeball, but you're inside a circle, so you have to try to dodge around it. The bungalow there to the left, they actually had hammocks. You could take a sleeping bag if you wanted to sleep on the beach every morning. But that's the scenery that they wake up to every day. This country is beautiful, guys, and you got to understand that. I would have never ever thought I could be there, but God blessed me with the opportunity. I appreciate the church giving me the opportunity, helping support me on the way up there. Again, if you get a chance, go. It's a beautiful country. They are taking another trip next summer, guys. So if you're thinking about going to Alaska and you want to make a trip over there to help people, these people, like I said, they had 800 kids there last year, and they're growing. They opened another camp up. They just got another camp given to them 40 miles up the canal that they're going to get set up. So they're growing, they're expanding, and kids are coming. They're learning about the Lord. They're learning how He can work in their life. And they actually have kids that they've brought up through the years that come back and become counselors and help work at the camp. So it's a repetitive cycle. So if you get the opportunity and you want to go, keep in contact. I'm thinking, if we get a chance, I'm going to try to go again next year. I'm going to have to wrap it up. This ain't, we're close. I've got more videos, but I got videos on the end. But just, that's where you're going. That's where I went. Now, I'm sure there's other opportunities. There's places to go. But when I stand on that beach every morning and look out at that, it was my time to just reflect on, this is what He's got for us here. I can only imagine what heaven's going to be like. Well, you can't imagine, but you can wonder if this is what He's blessed us with. And this country, God, it's just beautiful. I mean, it's beautiful. These pictures don't do it any justice, but you understand, God has a plan, and He wants us to be in it, be active in it, not to just sit back and hope it's all done and said when it's done. Get involved if you can, because that's what He says. He don't say, Bible says, go ye therefore into all the world. It doesn't say get a picture or send a postcard. Okay, so if you get the opportunity, go. That's all I can tell you. You want to bow your heads? Lord, I just thank You again for all You continue to do for us, Father. Just watching over us and keeping us safe and helping us do the things we need to do for You, Father. We just thank You again for Your blessings in our life. Thank You, love You, and praise You. In Your name we pray. Amen. If you guys want to come check it out, I got a few souvenirs up here I brought back. Sorry I didn't intend to run that long. Like I said, some of this is a little hard to get through. If you got any questions,